Hey guys, so as you may have seen yesterday, we rolled out a custom archetype designed after one of Joey's ace monsters, Time Wizard. And as we continue to roll out these showcases, we'll also pair them alongside a couple of test hands to show how the deck functions. Keep in mind that some decks can't truly be showcased until they're in action against another deck, but this is for the sake of keeping things simple and walking you through some general openings, combos, and go-to plays that every deck has. So here we go with Time Wizard. I'm gonna run a solo. We're opening up with Time After Time, Clocksmith, Hands of Time, Wrong Place, Wrong Time, and Time Witch. So the first thing that we'll do is activate Hands of Time. Hands of Time is the pot of greed of the deck with a little bit of chance. So the way it works is that you draw a card and reveal it, and if it is a time card, you can choose to repeat this effect, meaning you could draw another card and reveal that. And if at any point you draw a card that is not a time card, you have to discard all the ones that you drew, and you can't draw more than 2 with this effect. So this card basically encourages you to run a lot of time cards in your deck. The way that I've constructed this deck, I believe the only non-time card that is run in the main deck is Terraforming, but let's see what we get. So we drew Time Paradox, we can reveal that to draw another card, and we get another copy of Clocksmith. Clocksmith is treated as a time card, so that doesn't hurt us there. So we got our Pot of Greed, our +1. And now in our hand, we have the pieces that we need to really get things going. Clocksmith is one of the best openings that the deck has, because when you activate its effect, you flip a coin, and if you call it right, you can special summon time monsters from your hand, deck, or graveyard up to the number of cards that your opponent controls. Of course, if you're going first, your opponent doesn't have anything typically, but that's where a card like Wrong Place, Wrong Time comes in handy, where by discarding a time card, so let's discard Time Witch, we can special summon tokens on our opponent's field up to the number of vacant monster zones that they have. So of course, if we're going first, they will likely have 5, so we'll give them 5 tokens. And now we have 5 cards on our opponent's field, giving our Clocksmith a lot of field to work with. The next 2 things that I'll do is activate Time After Time and Time Paradox. Both of these are little insurance cards in case you call the coin flip wrong. And thanks to Time Paradox, it doesn't matter if we call the coin flip wrong, because Time Paradox will turn our wrong coin flip into a correct coin flip. So we'll go ahead and activate Clocksmith. We'll call heads. And we do go ahead and get that coin flip correctly, so we don't have to actually use Time Paradox or Time After Time at this point. And we will special summon 4 time monsters from our deck. So let's go with Time Warlock, Time Wizard, Time Keeper, and Time Manipulator. So leaving out Time Witch because our opponent doesn't have any back row, so there's no point in bringing that one out. So let me walk you through some of the monsters that we summon. Time Manipulator is the tuner of the deck, and it can manipulate the levels of our monsters based on the number of cards that we send from our opponents that our opponent possesses to their graveyard. So if you send 2 with the effects of time effects from your opponent's field or hand to the graveyard, then you can increase the level of all your time monsters by 2 each, and that'll allow you to access some of your synchro plays. But we're not going to do that at this point in time. We're going to activate first Time Warlock. Time Warlock can be activated if you have at least a card in hand, and Time Warlock is basically the Time Wizard for hands, whereby if you call the coin flip correctly, then you discard a random card from your opponent's hand, and if you call it incorrectly, it pops itself and discards your entire hand. But again, since we have the insurance of Time Paradox, we don't necessarily have to worry about getting this wrong, and we'll go ahead and activate that and declare heads. Alright, so I'm going to roll, kind of a roll that Joey might actually be on, and I'll discard a card from my opponent's hand, so now my opponent has those 5 tokens and 4 cards in hand. The other bit of insurance that we have is Time Keeper, where you can fizzle the effect of a time card if you call the coin flip wrong, and then activate that time card's effect again. But we don't have to do that at this point, but I will keep that on the board and use the other 4 to Xyz summon one of our boss monsters. Big Ben, Master of Time. Big Ben, Master of Time can be Xyz summoned with 2+ level 2 time monsters, and it gets effects depending on the number of materials that it has remaining after you've detached one to activate its effect. And naturally, of course, this is a coin flip effect, and we'll go ahead and detach 1, leaving us with 3. So we'll call heads. Brilliant. So now we get to resolve this up to the 3 materials that it has. So those effects are, since it has at least 0 materials, we send all our opponent's monsters to the graveyard. So those would be those 5 tokens that we gave our opponent. We'll send all the spells and traps our opponent controls to the graveyard. They don't have any since this is the first turn of the duel. Banish up to 2 cards from our opponent's graveyard. Again, they don't have any. And then we get to, since it has 3 materials left, look at our opponent's hand and send 1 card to the graveyard. So since we've sent 1 card to the graveyard with Time Warlock and also with Time Master of Time, our opponent is now going to be starting off their hand with starting off the duel with just 3 cards in hand, and of course the 4th one that they'll draw. But this is a pretty solid opening for the deck, where we got to discard 2 cards and gain knowledge of our opponent's hand, as well as keeping our entire board of insurance on the field, whereby when we activate the effect of our next time monster effect, we'll have Time Paradox and Time After Time to make sure that we can keep things going. So that is one test hand. Let's see what we get with a second one. So we're opening with 2 copies of the Watch Shop, which allows us to search any time card from our deck: Time Paradox, Time Out, and Timekeeper. So with a hand like this, it depends on if you're going first or second. If you're going second and your opponent has any bit of field presence, obviously you'll likely want to search out Clocksmith. And with the other Watch Shop, you can search for a couple of things. Again, if our opponent has some field presence, I would likely search out Time Zone, because this allows you to activate your time monster's effects as quick effects, as well as giving you 2 coin flips per time monster effect. But if our opponent doesn't have anything, say we're going first, then we can search out that Wrong Place, Wrong Time again. And now our Clocksmith is live once again. And we'll go ahead and activate that Time Paradox in case we called coin flip wrong. Activate Wrong Place, Wrong Time to give our opponent 5 tokens, and then activate the effect of Clocksmith. We'll call heads. I am on a roll. Alright, so we get to special summon 4 monsters from our hand, deck, or graveyard that are time monsters. We'll summon that Timekeeper. We'll summon Time Wizard, Time Warlock, and Time Manipulator again. And we'll go through the same bit of combos that we just did. And the last card that we have in hand is Time Out. Now this is a cool card that allows you to negate any effect that your opponent may activate that will remove a card from the field, banish a card from the graveyard, or discard or banish a card from the hand. So the way that we're likely going to end up our field is with I used the wrong one here. I'm gonna find it. Timekeeper, I would keep him on board. We're gonna end our field the same way that we ended our first one, with Big Ben, Master of Time, and Timekeeper. Now, one thing that I didn't show, but I'll show now, say we did discard that 1 card from our opponent's hand with Time Warlock, and then we discarded another card with the Master of Time. That is 2 cards that we send from our opponent that our opponent possesses to the graveyard, so we can activate the effect of Time Manipulator. Time Manipulator is usually the one that you'll want to detach first with Big Ben. And the way that Time Manipulator works is that if you've activated the effect of a time card that required a coin flip, you can special summon this from your hand or graveyard once per duel. And again, Time Manipulator has that level manipulating ability. Since we've sent 2 cards that our opponent possesses to the graveyard, we can increase the level of our time monsters by 2 each. So we'll increase his level by 2 and his level by 2, giving us 2 level 4 time monsters that can now be used to synchro summon Father Lord Overtime. So now we're ending our board with a 3000 attack beat stick, where it has the ability where we can flip a coin. If we call it right, banish all cards our opponent controls. If we call it wrong, we destroy all cards our opponent controls, and both players take damage equal to this monster's attack, that being 3000. We also have our mini boss monster, Big Ben, Master of Time, that can be used on our ensuing turns. We have Time Out to protect our field, and we have Time Paradox to protect our coin flip calls. So that is the Time Wizard archetype. As you can see, this deck does rely on a level of luck, and you're not always going to have the kind of luck that I did just now. But it does have cards like Time Paradox and Time After Time and Time Zone and Timekeeper to help ensure your coin flips. So let us know your feedback in the comments, and check out the entire Time Wizard showcase through that card up in the corner, or as well as the link in the description. And make sure you like and subscribe as we get into our first Yugi card coming up tomorrow.